Good afternoon. My name is Gwendolin Kremer. I'm the curator of the Schaufler Lab. Apparently, I'm hard to understand. That's better, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon also to the virtual audience who are watching via Zoom. My name is Gwendolin Kremer. I'm the curator of the Schaufler residency of the Schaufler Lab at TU Dresden, and we're happy that we are here today with two of our artists in residence, and two of our artists to be part of this panel discussion. It is now my responsibility to introduce you to the Schaufler Lab, and afterwards two of our colleagues here, Michael Klipphahn and Rebekka Roschy, as well as Anton Ginsberg and Kosmas Meyer, will tell you briefly about their research projects from an artistic point of view and also from the point of view of sociology. The Schaufler Lab was founded in 2020 at the Technische Universität Dresden. It is founded by the Schaufler Foundation, located close to Stuttgart in south of Germany. It supports the promotion of art, the human sciences, technology, and entrepreneurship. The Schaufler Foundation has already supported Technische Universität Dresden and has supported the Schaufler Lab since 2020. The first funding period deals with artificial intelligence, which is why we have the opportunity to be part of this festival. This is a very innovative approach. We do not only have research from a scientist's point of view or from the point of view of technological sciences or future perspectives, but we have a research group of different PhD students and associate researchers that research the implications of AI. Very different disciplines, religious sciences, sociology, and tonight Rebekka Roschy will tell us a little bit more about her perspective from the history of technology and her research project, and Michael Klipphahn will tell us about a project that has to do with the history of art. Our two artists in residence that are here with us tonight accompany these research periods from a scientific point of view, and they also deal with issues such as artificial intelligence from their artist's point of view. So these two different points of views are very interesting for us, and we try to really deal with this issue together with our different scientific partners, for example, the Center for Tactile Internet and other research partners from industrial engineering sciences, electrical engineering, and other disciplines to get a very broad perspective on AI. I think Rebekka Roschy will be the first one to tell us more about her project. She studied history at TU Dresden. She has been a scholarship holder since 2020 at Schaufler Research Group, and she deals with a perspective of the history of technology on AI. She is researching for her PhD degree at the Chair of History of Technology, and she will tell us more about her perspective on the history of AI, and will tell us a little bit more about how these future technologies have developed over the past. Then our first artist in residence, Kosmas Meyer, will talk about his artistic research project. Then Michael Klipphahn will tell us more about his project that is related to history of art. He deals with magic and AI and will show us 2 examples in order to illustrate how magical thinking and new materialism can be used in the context of artificial intelligence and how it can really support these projects in the arts and be beneficial. And last but not least, Anton Ginsberg, our second artist in residence, will briefly introduce his the 3 different research projects. And before we start with Rebekka Roschy, I would love to introduce the 2 artists. Christian Kosmas Meyer has been with the Schaufler Lab since 2020. He lives and works in Vienna, and he's been part of many different international exhibitions. He deals especially with the question of the human desire for eternity and living forever. And he cooperates with different research projects and partners. Anton Ginsberg deals with 3 different project ideas, and he's been working on that for the past 6 months in order to observe the different options of using AI, and he will give us an interesting introduction to that. Going back to Michael Klipphahn, whom I would love to introduce briefly as well. Well, Mr. Klipphahn has studied art, aesthetic philosophy, and history of arts. He is head of the Gallery Stephanie Kenny, and he is pursuing his PhD degree at Dresden, Technische Universität Dresden. I'm looking forward to the first presentation by Rebekka Roschy. Thank you very much for those kind words of introduction. Artificial intelligence, or AI in short, is regarded as the key technology of our present time. A technology that makes it possible to implement disruptive social changes as well as technical, economical, and societal expectations, as well as fantasies, but also dystopian future scenarios. In order to understand why AI has developed from the 1970s, when it was a niche technology, to such a key technology is really worthwhile. First of all, I will talk about the history preceding AI, and in the second part I will give a short overview of AI development in Germany. Officially, the history of AI starts in 1956 when John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, Rochester, and Claude Chen filed an application for organizing a summer course. Artificial intelligence, AI, appeared for the very first time during that conference. There was no detailed definition to what AI meant, but there was a thesis that said every aspect of learning and intelligence can be described in such a way that a machine is able to simulate it. However, that was quite controversial because intelligence, or using the term intelligence, was seen as provocative because intelligence seemed to be something only humans were capable of, and claiming that machines could conquer that seemed bombastic. The initiators of the Dartmouth conference probably had that in mind in order to increase attention and funding for their project. The idea to develop machines that have human properties goes back until the ancient Greeks. We hear about machines that were able to imitate human behavior or the behavior of animals, especially movements. In modern times, machine builders try to imitate that, mostly for entertainment issues. The mechanical duck of the French engineer Jacques de Vaucanson is especially well known. The idea was to see human beings as a machine. Descartes said the human body was a machine that adhered to the rules of laws of physics. And by doing that, he initiated the modern phase of human-machine interactions. However, his comparison was limited to the body and not to the way of thinking, learning, or the human spirit. Afterwards, the human body was defined in the terminology of the existing technology. The way the human brain worked was still unknown. Up until the 20th century, the human brain was regarded as a black box. Of course, input and output could be observed, but there was no way to make any inferences as to how the brain worked. In the 1930s and 40s, the idea became apparent that the human brain itself could be a machine. This way of looking at things was closely related to the development of computers. In the 1930s, in the UK, Germany, and the United States, the first computers were being developed. The Second World War then increased demand for machines that were able to operate different calculations at the same time. The aircraft industry, cryptography, etc. There was a high demand for high computing efficiency, which humans could not obtain. The functionality of the computer is based on a binary system, and the idea that machines and human brains have the same way of functioning, and that sparked the interest of neuroscientists. And that is why they had the desire to develop this. The black box, the human brain, only seemed to be able to be opened by means of a machine. Roy McCulloch, who cooperated with Walter Pitts and developed the neuron model that says that neurons only can assume two different conditions in order to pass on information or not, led to the fact that he claimed that everything that we learn about organisms makes us think that they do not only compare with machines, but that they are machines truly. Or as Marvin Minsky said later on, the human brain is no different from a machine made of flesh. Against this backdrop, the idea of using AI in the United States after the war was successful. Using the word intelligence showed that researchers wanted to simulate human thought by means of a machine. First AI researchers used this approach, and they regarded intelligence as a way of brain functionality and the ability to process symbols. Intelligence was seen in the ability to solve problems, use language, recognize patterns, and to learn and to plan ahead. At the same time, these were the fields of application for AI that are still true today. The Dartmouth conference, which hosted 20 to 30 participants, did not obtain specific results. The Logic Theorist by Alan Duvin and Simon was the own project that was being presented. For the development of AI, the Dartmouth conference was still very important, because here the scientific community for AI was formed, as well as the paradigm of symbolic information processing, which was going to be key for the 3 following decades. Especially for the military, AI was used, and that was the main part where the funding for AI came from. Of course, I can tell you a lot more about the history of AI, but instead I'm going to take geographical and time lapse in order to give you some insights into the development of AI in Germany. AI research and development was a project that was limited to the United States and the UK. However, in Germany in the 1970s, research in AI really kick-started based on the initiative of researchers that had learned about AI during a study year abroad. And they brought the idea back to Germany upon return. In Germany, they met with resistance and reluctance. A reason was that computer studies had only evolved recently and was not an established field. Research that dealt with AI were seen as hereditary. And people thought they would endanger the seriousness of computer sciences. Despite these unfortunate circumstances, AI research was kick-started in Germany, especially where there was no competition with classical computer studies. One example is language processing. In the 19th century, German language studies tried to collaborate with natural sciences. They had a formalistic understanding of languages, and this approach proved to be adaptable to these sciences, and therefore it was possible to use computers in order to push these studies forward. In Mannheim, Hamburg, and other cities, language processing projects were established that used AI-based ideas. The Hamburg model was very well known in this respect. In Germany, AI research was organized as a so-called invisible college. 1975 was a milestone in this regard. In February 1975, the meeting on AI was hosted in Bonn. Here you see a circulatory letter that was drafted on AI and later renamed the magazine on AI, or journal on AI. And this was a way of establishing AI as a research field in Germany. In 1981 and 82, Japan announced the 5th generation project with the goal of developing a new computer generation and to develop intelligent computers over the next 10 years. This was the reason why AI now moved into the public sphere in Germany and anywhere else in the world. Research and development in AI really gained momentum in the 1990s. There was the Joint Conference on Artificial Intelligence in Karlsruhe in the 1990s for the first time in Germany. That was also when this special research area was founded at a university here. There were regular meetings and first chairs on AI were founded. And this development continued up until the 1990s. In former East Germany, research on AI was very much influenced by the political climate there. In the 1960s, people thought that societal phenomena were to be predicted by means of AI. And that was part of the economic revolution of the new economic system. The cybernetics hype and the political will to make progress in terms of technology was something that was beneficial for AI research. The Robotron state-owned company is one of the best examples here because it was one of the first centers focusing on AI research. In April in 1969, it was founded as a research center. It had its own AI research center where research was conducted in terms of natural language communication. There was a Central Institute for Cybernetics of the Academy of Sciences as well. State funding of AI-related issues mostly focused on Robotron and the center that I just mentioned, and that led to the fact that the researchers had a privileged access to data and information. The 1970s were characterized by the political shift due to the new politics under Honecker. AI research was carried out, nevertheless. However, there were different changes in terms of funding and personnel. The fifth generation project announced by Japan, new funding for AI research in the US, and first commercial success of so-called expert systems as a product of AI led to the fact that the governments in West and Eastern Germany increased their funding for AI research in Germany. Former East Germany focused on centralizing AI research in order to increase their efficiency. Against the backdrop of the so-called university complex, research in AI was combined of Robotron and TU Dresden.
There were individual initiatives. Since '84 at Technical University Karl-Marx-Stadt, there was a specialization on AI and technical IT. Mid-'80s, at almost all GDR universities, there were research groups of AI, and there was a network of AI researchers. The summer school in Reinhardsbrunn was part of that, and there were regular visits by West German AI researchers. And that was a problem in the GDR, namely the lack of hardware, especially the double embargo by Western countries, and on the other hand, the secrecy policy of Moscow. A point of orientation for the development of computing and AI was the West, especially the US. The positive potential of AI in the socialist system was always stressed, rather than pushing out people as an argument. In socialism, human beings would be complemented by AI. Workers would be freed from routine work, and they would have room for developing their productive skills. Summary: the Federal Republic and the Socialist GDR started rather late, with a 15 to 20-year delay compared to the US in developing AI. Both German countries could fall back on scientific traditions which were important for AI, especially the tradition of the young grammarians, which became important later on for machine learning and machine translation. In the 90s, there were further developments. In the Federal Republic, it became a specialization. In the GDR, this is about the 1960s rather, there was a stop to those developments when the system changed from Walter Ulbricht to Erich Honecker. West Germany could fill the technological gap by imports. When you compare East Germany and West Germany and AI developments, you can see what the impact of politics is. At the same time, it depends on traditions and national cultures. Technological history can make a contribution to find the roots of present problems, and as Michael Homburg says, you can basically lend a historical depth to that. Thank you very much.
Vielen Dank für die Einladung. Ich habe nur 10 Minuten, deswegen wird das jetzt nur mal ein...
Thank you very much for the invitation. I've only got 10 minutes. I would like to give you an overview of my work. As Gwendolin has said in her introduction, my artistic research at Schaufler Lab concentrated on cultural history, ideas of eternal life in the context of biotechnology and AI. So, eternal life has been around in human history forever. Ever since humans are aware of their mortality, they are in a paradox situation. Everybody knows that one day we have to die. As Sigmund Freud once said, your own death is unimaginable, and however often we try, we continue to participate as observers. Nobody really believes in their own death, or what is the same. Everybody is convinced that they are immortal in their subconscious. Two different perspectives. One is objective, or from outside, and the other is subjective, from inside. Those two powerful ideas create a tension which is difficult to bear. If you cannot bear it, there is only one solution, and that is the idea of immortality. Hence, the idea of immortality has become one of the most important desires of humankind. In order to give that shape, since times immemorial, we have come up with stories about immortality. That is the main driver for all cultural achievements. Brian Appleyard once said, everybody dies, so I have to die as well. As that is unthinkable, we invent immortality, and that leads to culture. So the desire for immortality first was mentioned in the Gilgamesh epos. Gilgamesh was a king of Uruk, striving for immortality. Then the hero sees that only gods are immortal and that dying and living is part of human life. We have bodies among us which have been around for thousands of years. Here the mummified pharaoh Ramesses I. And here the striving for immortality was their main driver. They thought they would hear the voices of the dead so that they could achieve immortality. I took that as a reason for a performance based on one of those mummified bodies, based on data which were generated by computer tomography. I worked with the people of the Institute of Speech Acoustics, and I came up with a copy of the larynx, the vocal cords, from the vocal cords to the lips, so the whole speech canal. There was a fluid tongue made of silicone, as our voice isn't just the sound generated by the vocal cords and then shaped by the throat, but the tongue changes that into different sounds. You can see it very well. This is a simplified model of the vocal tract. It's see-through, and you see this silicone tongue with 3 chambers, which can be filled. Overpressure vacuums can be created in order to get the water in and out, and hence the tongue changes its shape, hence the sound changes, which we could generate. And so we heard the voice of the mummy, as it were. This artificial organ was then played like an instrument in order to create different sounds. And I created a multi-channel piece. The sounds between scientific precision and poetic experiment, on the other hand, yield a composition leading you to the depths of time. and connect the archaic with the hypermodern. If you want to know how it sounds, go to the Altana Gallery at TU Dresden, have a look at the AI exhibition, and there you can see and hear this installation. This work relates to new technological innovation, which can re-synthesize the voices of the dead using neural networks. We can hear dead singers singing songs which they didn't sing when they were alive. And in the future, they will be able to conduct normal conversation. The data which we collect is used by AI to learn to speak how we do. Here, for instance, Eugenia Guida, who had the idea to create a chatbot in memory of her dead friend Roman when she read old text messages. If I feed thousands of chat text messages of Roman into the machine, in 2016, the Roman bot was published on Facebook. The algorithm is not just programmed in such a way to fall back on sentences from the text messages by Roman, but also to assemble new messages. And here you can see what conversations sound like. The bot worked as a conversation partner which sounded like Roman. His girlfriend had or could imagine that it sounded like him. Some people, however, rejected that project. So that is quite uncanny, and some people like it. For some people, it helps to mourn. Others are aghast. The more parameters of bodily character, the more problematic it is. This Korean girl had died of leukemia in South Korea. Her mother was mourning, was looking for help. 4 years later, a TV station helped the mother to see her daughter again. A production team worked on the VR technology in order to recreate the face and the voice of Nayeon. The scenes were reenacted in a television studio and in a virtual park. Mother and the avatar of her dead daughter met. The daughter asked, "Ma, where were you? I was missing you." And mother said, "I missed you, Nayeon." She was crying and she was reaching out to touch her daughter. But she was standing in a green studio and reached into the empty air. She couldn't touch her daughter. Her daughter was just an artificial ghost. Those two examples show that with digital opportunities, the boundaries between life and death become more blurred and a new culture of mourning is created. In my work, together with Anton Ginsberg, what I'm showing at the Altana Gallery, I try to connect that to a cultural, historical angle in order to bring the dream of immortality together with technology.
So bezieht sich eine Serie von animierten Fotografien mit so
A series of animated photographies are used to create video deepfakes, which are uncannily like reality. And the Korean girl was an example. Those falsified images have a long tradition. The US photographer William Mumler in the mid-1890s took ghost photographs and was accused of manipulation. I use modern technology by using Mumler's photos and making sure that they are coming alive. And my own facial gestures are used in order to lend life to those photos. And I used AI for that. And however, observers cannot really hear the words. Will we be able to talk to our dead family members? Will they sing songs to us? Will they speak to us? We have the technology for that. It's being improved as we speak. But do we want that? That is a basic debate in society. How our relation to death should change, and what role those digital wraiths, those digital ghosts should have in our lives. Thank you very much.
Ja, vielen Dank für die Einladung.
Thank you very much for the invitation. A disclaimer, I will not talk about my PhD thesis. I would like to focus on an art historian topic, which is very important for contemporary art. Whether AI is a legitimate narrative in contemporary art. The potential of AI as a creative tool, as destructive technology, and as an object for criticism plays a crucial role. Just like the fact that AI and narratives are seen as a trigger for artistic work, corresponding with the work of the two artists in residence of Schaufler Lab, who often reflect on AI without using AI. I would like to broaden the scope for this artistic strategy and point out another work of contemporary art. AI, unlike a lot of examples, is not used as a technical component in the work of art. It's about co-producing swarms of intelligence, creating the bridge with AI. The French artist Pierre Vic, with his work Until, creates a metaphor for neural networks and wants to achieve an understanding of functional intelligence, which is based on reading information. Intelligence, which only taps its potential as a swarm, can be seen in bees, in birds, termites, and you can study concepts of emergence. Every individual has only little information about its environment and interacts only with a limited number of peers. But the group as a whole takes coordinated decisions due to feedback. Every individual adapts its behavior to their neighbors and influences their behavior. Certain aspects of this kind of intelligence, of a colony of ants, can be simulated by computers in a rule-based way. And this is a field of research of AI and distributed AI. We try to create software systems based on colony-forming insects. And we want to simulate higher cognitive intelligence. For instance, load distribution in a cluster of internet surfers, and based on how bees behave when they collect pollen. In the peripheral south, the French Pierre Vic, during Documenta 13 in 2012, he presented his work Until. It's concrete with an integrated heating system. we see honeycomb structures, and a honey or a bee colony is the head. You see two dogs, senior and human, and they lived there for the duration of the exhibition. And one dog was marked with pink color. There are other passive and active players, like, for instance, ants, puddles with algae, and a pond where there were tadpoles and frogs. There were speculative parts, like cobblestones and hills of black slate and other minerals. The work is based on plants as well, so there is plant growth. Besides the growing bee colony, you will not know how far it will extend. Concrete withers away, and due to the synthesis of diffuse materials, you can create a bridge to the Karlsauer in its cultural and material conditions. They are transferred to the work of art. In 1700, the Baroque Garden was created with its axes. The artificial ponds and canals house animals and plants, and these axes have the dynamism of a natural space which can provide shelter. In his work of art, by placing it in this historical park, has certain intentions. Baroque gardens were created with a representation aim. Charles of Hesse in the 17th century created it, and this is a tool of demonstrating power and hegemony. The power balance can be seen here, and there are different references similar to the black box in artificial neural networks. A special importance is the copy of a statue by Max Reinhold Weber. It's copper covered with verdigris. The concrete is heated so that the bees like it. For human beings, the head houses the brain, but here it's a colony of bees. By substituting the human control organ, by substituting it with bees, which can move at the same time and create a symbiosis with its environment. And this is a reflection of nature. The process space, which is about growth of plants, and there are activities of the bees, so that has a link to neural networks, and that's what Vic based his ideas on. The structures of neural networks are based on the human nervous system. What is important is hearing, which has replaced swarm intelligence. For higher organisms, a signal transmission is via nerve cells, which are connected by synapses. And there are networks of neurons and synapses. Transmission paths, which are used very often, are reinforced. Little used synapses are weakened. So, in brief, they learn. By using deep learning, that is usually based on neural networks. they can come up with rules under their own steam based on the data sets they are fed. The input neurons take on the data, weigh them. Every neuron has its own weight. That is sent as a stimulus to all other neurons, and before they are passed on, they are weighed again by neurons. That weight, that weighing, depends on the strength of the neuron. The last neurons pass it on to the output neurons, and an overall picture is created. At the beginning of the training, the result is far away from the known result. With faults and mistakes, there can be feedback, how every link between neurons has to be adapted in order to approximate the concrete output. After thousands of iterations, the system learns to create output data. Neural networks create quite similar networks. The artist wanted to make a statement, and we see it in this picture. Communication among bees about the quality of their food is expressed in a dance. The direction of the beans is an indication of the direction of the sources of food, and that indicates the amount of pollen in the food source. Every bee is acting in line with strict rules. At the beginning, there are only a few scout bees and there are onlooker bees. The scout bee is looking for a potential source of pollen, and the observer bee is waiting for recruiting. When a scout bee finds a source of pollen, she becomes a worker bee, then goes back to the beehive and dances the information in order to share that information with the observers. Those ontological relationships are taken by Pierre Vic by creating artistic and organic components, personifying a living organizing. That is driven by a beehive which is scanning the environment and in order to enhance its own functionality. The references comprise stable, unstable, agile, static, natural, artistic, non-artistic, biological, organic, synthetic, and artistic processes, and until is seen as a network rather than a singular work of art. This is derived from nature, and the added value is that it goes beyond a theory, goes beyond technical processes which are outside the subject matter. There is the inclusion of environments which stabilize each other. Thank you very much for your attention.
Sorry, can I do full screen? Hello, everyone. My name is Anton Ginsberg. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to present the project that I was working on in 2021. A lot of my practice is based on the research of the modernist tradition of the 20th century, and in particular Eastern European context of that. So my approach to technology and AI was really a practical one, studio-based. The first 3 months, I was researching the archives of the TU Dresden and the collections that the university has. In particular, I was very interested in mathematical models collection, as well as a color archive that's located near Kustodin Technical University. Another aspect that I was able to see is kind of the expression of the 1960s work of two Dresden-based artists, Karl-Heinz Adler and Friedrich Kracht. It was really kind of the focus on synthesis of art and architecture, which I found very inspiring and in line with the constructivist tradition. So as a result, I decided to develop on 3 projects, and as an inspiration for me was really working with surface. The first project was kind of taking the ideas of Adler and Kracht, and by using algorithmic method and kind of a computation to develop and expand the ideas that I thought were very inspiring. The photos that I will be showing, it's exhibition at Altana Gallery. That is a 2-person exhibition of myself and Christian Kosma that opened 2 days ago. And that's open during the week, but not on the weekends. So the first expression was kind of a drawing approach, a 2-dimensional approach. That was also kind of took a form of a daily exercise. As I mentioned, kind of my approach to technology is really kind of rooted in the modernist tradition. And as Rebekka was saying, it's really to expand and kind of free up kind of the time to be more effective and maybe to find certain approaches that otherwise would not be humanly possible. So my first project was quite human, actually. I used an algorithm to develop a system, but a lot of choices, for example, for the color, for the arrangement, for the duration, for the brush strokes, I really wanted to leave there to show that the technology is really an extension to the human decisions. The result of it was 50 drawings, and it was the amount of days that I was staying in Dresden in the summer, which was shown in one of the university galleries. The second outcome was kind of coming closer to the surface of the building, to the wall. So I developed murals, kind of using the same kind of approach, the same kind of technology, but kind of changing the scale. So in this particular works, it's really kind of looking at the kind of painterly surface. The second project I was interested to look at is closely related to the idea of AI. Also, the idea of surface appears, but in a different way. I worked with the Department of Computer Visualization with Professor Stefan Gumhold and some of the students, where I created quite a simple scenario using 3D graphics. For me, the inspiration was a project that took place in 1975 in California. It was a performance piece by architectural group called Ant Farm. The project was called Media Burn. Unfortunately, I don't have the photo here, but I'll describe it. It was quite simple. It was kind of like a mountain of TV sets that kind of where the classical American car drove through it. For them, it was two symbols of kind of 1970s American culture, kind of bringing it to the kind of point of crash. So I was thinking, well, you know, kind of there is this kind of the idea of two kinds of databases, the idea of a surface database and the idea of 3D models, a database of 3D artworks that you can find on the internet. So I set up a very simple scenario of multiple crashes. Kind of the surface, though, for the three-dimensional, for the 3D animation was a database based on kind of photography, buildings, skies of Dresden. But because it's still kind of the AI wasn't trained very well, it created a lot of formal artifacts, which for me was also an interesting formal exploration. As technologies develop, new aesthetics come up. Like if we look at the early 20th century with usage of metal, glass, plastic, it's definitely changed the approach to abstraction and to expanded the vocabulary of art. The third project was based on a surface as a sculptural form, as a structural form. I worked with the Department of Mathematics with Professor Axel Voigt and student Mike Porman. I based it on 12 iconic movies. And I took the script of each of the movies, applying sentiment analysis to the form, and with help of the professors and the student, we developed an algorithm that was generating form based on the concrete data. For me, it's also kind of, this kind of project has a stamp of time that this kind of form, on one hand, it's quite abstract and quite expressive, yet it's rooted in a very concrete data. The result was video and 3D prints that were installed as kind of a mural piece, once again kind of focusing on the idea of figure-ground relationship and the idea of a surface as a structural element. I have a little clip of the video. I don't know if we have time for that. Maybe not. Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, the speaker is off mic. Christian Kosmas Meyer already mentioned the exhibition. So I hope all of you will have the opportunity to visit this exhibition. Are there any questions in the audience? Apparently, there are no questions from our virtual audience. If there aren't any questions, then I would like to thank our scholarship holders and the artists in residence. Thank you very much for showing how different science disciplines can cooperate in order to find an artistic approach, and that after all, that is the central theme of the Schaufler Lab, uniting different disciplines and implementing their ideas and projects at Technische Universität Dresden, and to broaden the view on AI. and also to use this transfer of knowledge in order to make this knowledge available to a broader audience and to discuss new ways of looking at the problem. Thank you very much. Once again, I would like to mention the great exhibition. Thank you very much for having us. It was a pleasure to be part of this AI festival. And this brings us back to our virtual program. And we look forward to more interesting insights at the AI Festival. We hope you enjoyed the rest of the conference.